Today we're expanding our stone production with some more blocks so that we can build all the buildings we want. Welcome to a new video on the Create World, and today we're going to be jumping right into the first farm. We do need some space for that, so I'll get rid of some of this water and clean up the land a little bit more before we get started. This farm will be producing netherrack and its variants, together with some mud, and unlike the other farms that we've built in the last episode, we can't just get everything we need out of cobblestone. That's why we're digging a nice tall basement for this building. Now that we've got some space, let's get started on the farm. We'll start out by outlining the space for dirt and soul sand with some cut deep slate bricks. And then we'll set up a standard gantry farm. One side will get us nether wart and the other side will plant some seeds. This will get us wheat and some straw as well. We'll put on some temporary storage in here, but all of this stuff will be used to produce our end products. Let's put in a staircase so I don't get stuck when the jetpack runs out of fuel. And now we just need to make this look like an actual basement. So we'll put in some tough pillars as a nice bottom trim and build up the walls using limestone. We'll close it up with some overlapping stone bricks as a roof, and then it's just a matter of bringing both the power and the drawer system up so that we can get started on the actual farm. I got the floor in place, and now we can mix the andesite that we're producing in the other building with the nether wart from the basement. This will get us netherrack, and half of it we'll put in storage and the other half will smelt into netherrack bricks. That way we can craft them up with brick blocks and combine them with nether wart to get red nether bricks. And that's all for the nether side of the farm. We'll also mix in some dirt with water to get mud. We don't really have a way to automate dirt in this world, but I have enough dirt in storage to keep this farm stocked for a while. Then it's just a matter to combine the mud with some wheat and straw, and we get packed mud. And that's where we'll stop producing blocks in this building, since mud bricks can easily be made in the inventory itself. And now we just need to put up some end gates. These turn all the farms off and on if we need them to. They're pretty easy to set up, but that's all for this building itself. Well, there's no real building yet, but we can change that. We're using these umber bricks to add some variation to the actual buildings in the area, and we'll frame out the bottom floor around the farm and the staircase. Then it's a matter of bringing up the middle part into a second floor. For the floor of the second story, we'll use some spruce and then we can fill in the rest of the walls. The roof is pretty much the same as the rest of the buildings in the area, but for the main building or the main part of the building, I do want to have a flat roof. So we will replace the top layer of bricks with copycat slabs so that we can have a half block of brick. Yeah, the rest we can just make into textures like deep slate on the flat roof and then use some warp wood on the barrel roofs. We'll add in all the windows in the walls, but we're leaving some space for other details. And then we'll outline the walls to give them a little bit more depth, and most of all to differentiate the main building from the other parts. And that's the base of the building. Now we can go around to the flat and empty spaces on the walls to add some vents and overhangs over the window. And I think that's enough for this building itself. I'll add in some more details later, but first I want to clean up this wall a little bit more. We will replace the outer bit with some rounded deep slate bricks, and then we'll get some rails and staircases in as well. Now that we're done with that, we can get started on the next building for the last few blocks that I want to automate in this episode. I'll get to digging and resource collecting while you guys can listen to this little tune that's coming up right now. This building is going to be used to produce scoria, scorcha, dripstone, and ash bricks. Similar to what we have in the netherrack and the mud building, we do need an extra basement space for this, because we need extra ingredients. We'll set up a little dark oak farm so we can get started on the first ingredient, and by smelting the logs that we get from the dark oak farm, we can make charcoal. Charcoal has a chance to drop black and grey dye when it's crushed, or in this case we'll use millstone to save up some space. It's the black dye that we want, and we'll use that in the end to make one of the blocks. On the other side of the basement, we'll set up a small dripstone farm. This does not need to be too big since I'm not using a lot of dripstone at the moment, but if it turns out to be way too slow, I can add a couple more layers to it. Now we'll set up a staircase, and just like the other building, we'll build up the walls for the basement as well. For the actual scoria farm, we'll smelt down some soul sand, and then we combine that scoria with some black dye in the autocrafter, and that step gets us 1 scoria and 2 scorcha. The dripstone block is pretty easy to make. We can take the dripstone itself and press it into blocks with a basin and a press, and on the second floor we'll turn the ash that we're about to get into ash bricks. With some fans and lava, we'll bake them into bricks and then combine those bricks into ash brick blocks. The building itself will be pretty much the same process as the other one, so let's jump ahead in time and see what I came up with. The building is in place and I like the scarlet bricks that I used, but we'll put in some more overhangs and details like smokestacks and stuff. And to hide the threshold switches and the redstone links, we can make up a little electrical box. We will put in some copycat trapdoors among the panels so that we can reach the redstone links whenever I need to. The last thing that we need to do is to automate the production of ash. I've looked in some ways to do it, and making a spawner farm would be the easiest. The big problem we have when using spawners is that the player has to be there in the moment close to the spawner itself, 16 blocks to be precise. And that's a problem. A problem we can fix with mechanical spawners. First thing we need to do is make zombie juice. I don't like how that sounds, but we're basically going to mix a lot of stuff together and then add in some rotten flesh to get the zombie juice. This entire setup will turn XP into spawner juice and then get into the zombie stuff, basically. Where do we get the XP from? Well, that's a good question, and I have the answer for that. I went to Beardstone, where we have a lot of XP backed up from the silverfish farm, and stored it underneath the steam engines next to the infinite lava pool. We'll pump all of this together with some lava to the new farm. Then we just need to power the mixers and start blending all of this together, and boom, there we have it. That's it, that's zombie juice. Now let's move on to the killing chamber. We'll use a belt and spawn the zombies on top of it. So the spawners will go underneath the belt. We'll set them to spawn 2 blocks up, which should come out above the belt. And then we connect up the zombie juice tank and the power. And at the end of the belt we have a deployer that has a sword. The sword itself has mending and unbreaking, so it should not break. And then looting and most of all fire aspect. That will burn the zombies before they get processed. And because they're burning when they get processed, they drop ash. The leftover XP and rotten flesh that we're getting will be pumped back into the farm, so that will be used to keep all of this running. The rest of the drops I'll just void with some void upgrades on the drawers. For the building itself, we'll go back to that umber brick design that we have over on the first building that we made today. And I do want to have this overhang to break up the simple rectangle box that we have. It's within the same style, but it still has its own design. It's fine. I think when we get rid of all of this grass and set up some pathways and a nice floor texture, it'll look 100 times better. Alright, this is pretty much done. I do need a little break from this project, and I have been doing some work on the train tunnels. I only have to do this last part over here, and we're continuing the same design that I've used throughout the entire train line. I have a green line on the wall that shows you what train line you're on. Just like on a metro line, where all the lines have different colors. We are using copycat slabs for the diagonal bits to keep that same half block design, and then it's just adding in all the limestone. In the little bit that crosses the lush cave, we'll put in a simple bridge, mostly just supporting it with large copper chains, and we'll use some monorails as support beams going across the gap. And that's the tunnels done all the way over here, so that's good. So now let's go and finish up the area around the farms. Let's put in these 2 storage banks for some of the ingredients that we're making or that we're using. We'll fill one of them with sand and the other one with gravel. And then we can use some of these MOA mod decorations to add some shovels and wheelbarrows and some other little bits and bobs. Then underneath the overhang at the zombie farm, we can add some garbage bins. 2 of these big boys and then some other smaller ones. And now that I look at them, we could do the same ones at the sand and gravel deposit as well. And now it's just a matter of me going around and adding bits and bobs here and there. So I'll do that and then I'll bring you back in. And this is what it looks like. Right now it's a lot more busy, or it's on the busy side I would say, but it does help fill up some of those empty areas and corners that we had over here. And I do like it. I also think that we have been pretty productive in this episode, and I hope you've enjoyed it enough to subscribe and like this video, but I'm running out of time, so I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!